Hello there, my fellow aviators. In today's video, I want to show you how you can become a CFI in about 3 months, starting from zero, and then earn just shy of around $5,000 per month as a full-time, hard-working flight instructor. And then once you do that, within a couple of years, you'll have the opportunity to earn mid-six figures at the airlines. And I want to show you how you can do all of this for under $50,000, which is about half what the major puppy mill flight schools want to charge you to do it. And the reason that I'm making this video is over the past 6 months, as my channel has grown so quickly, I have received some version of this question hundreds of times. So I thought it would be a terrific topic for a video. So let's get into it. All right, in case this is one of your first time watching videos on my channel and you're thinking, who the hell is this guy and why should I listen to him? My name is Trent, and in 91 days in 2023, I obtained six different pilot ratings. I got my instrument, my commercial, my CFI, my multi-engine, my CFII, and my MEI. And at the time, I had a Canadian private pilot's license, which I had to convert to a US private pilot's license. So that was the 7th rating. But I speak from personal experience. And so I want you to make sure that you know that in case you haven't seen my story before. So if you cut out the extra time that I took for the multi-engine rating, the CFII, and the MEI, which technically you do not need to be able to earn money as a CFI, and I didn't have a private pilot's license, I could have gotten a private, an instrument, a commercial, and a CFI in 90 days using the method that I'm going to explain to you in this video, and that means that you potentially could do it as well. I spent about $50,000 doing this. If you want more details on my whole story and the journey and everything that made my channel so popular so quickly, that's the most popular video on my channel, and I'll leave a link down in the description, and then you can get into all of the nitty-gritty. All right, so let's talk about the budget. The number one question that I get asked from people is, how can I afford to make this happen? And while everyone's situation is different, I'm going to do my very best to give you advice that I believe and hope will be as applicable to as many of you as possible. Some of the advice that I'm going to give you may not sit well with you. You may not like it. You may not like what I'm about to tell you. And if that's you, well, tough. This is the reality of making the money work. Number one, unless you have the cash on hand like I did, or you have equity in your home that you could extract via a HELOC, or you have assets that you can sell, you are going to need to slash the hell out of your expenses. So what do I mean by that? I mean, get roommates, consider van life, live in an RV, do whatever you can to lower what is most people's greatest expense on a month-to-month basis, and that is your cost for housing. And if you're saying, well, you know, I can't do that for this reason or this reason or this reason, well, you know what? You don't want it bad enough. If you want it bad enough, you will go live in a closet or you will go live in a van to get rid of that $2,000 a month rent and be able to live for a couple $100 per month. The next thing you can do is you can sell stuff. So many people are driving a big fancy pickup truck or a big fancy car, and they have car payments because it's cool. Get rid of it. Get rid of the payments. Drive a $500 car. I don't want to drive a $500 car. Well, guess what? Then you don't want to be a pilot bad enough. Ride around on your bicycle if you have to. Get a one wheel. Learn how to ride a skateboard. You need to slash your expenses. Then you also may need to quit the job that you have because it gets in the way of the time that you need to dedicate to flying. And you might be saying, well, you know, hey, Trent, I can't quit my job. Well, yeah, you can, because all you have to do is say, I quit. Or you might be saying, well, you know, I got to have some form of income. Well, maybe you need a different job. Maybe you need a job like a waiter where you work in the evening and you actually make a very high per dollar amount. You might be saying, well, I don't want to be a waiter. It's beneath me. Well, then you don't want to be a pilot bad enough. Or maybe you don't have the personality to be a waiter or a waitress. Fine. Then go be a consultant. And well, I don't know where to get clients. Well, there's this thing called Upwork, and you can there's all sorts of people who are looking for other people to do stuff for them, and they advertise those gigs on Upwork. Or maybe go get a security guard job where you sit in a box and do nothing so that you could be doing your ground school and getting paid to do it. Or maybe you go get a job at the local FBO pumping gas into airplanes so that you can meet a lot of people in the industry, which could create opportunities for you. The bottom line is there is a way to cut your expenses. There is a way to free time up in your calendar. It's just a question of whether you are willing to go through the pain and suffering required to make those changes in your life. If you're not willing, you don't need to watch any further in this video, because that is the cold, hard reality of it. Now let's talk about what you should be doing prior to flight school. So let's say that you devise a plan. You're going to say, I'm going to spend the next 90 days selling stuff and trimming expenses and doing all those life changes to get my expenses as low as humanly possible. Is there anything that I could be doing during that period of time to make progress? And yes, there absolutely is. And you can take all the written exams. You do not need to be going to flight school to take the written exams. And you can take all of them that you need before you start your flight training. As a matter of fact, that is exactly what I did. And I have a video where it talks about how I passed 4 different FAA exams in 3 weeks. I'm not saying you have to get it done in 3 weeks, and I'll put a link to that video down in the description. I recommend that you either use, for your private pilot license, I recommend that you use something called Gold Seal for your online ground school. And that will also help you get ready for the private pilot written exam. And then for every other written exam after that, there is only one thing I recommend, and that is Shepherd Air. They have test prep software that will help you to get ready to pass those exams in a very short period of time. It is what I used. So get all of that stuff done before you get into flight school, because if you follow my approach in flight school, you are going to be one very, very busy beaver. All right, now let's talk about the flying. There's 2 types of flight schools to choose from, Part 161 and Part 141. Do not go to a Part 141 school. They will tell you that it's going to take you only this long and blah, 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 blah. BS. It is the expensive, slow way to go through flight school. There's lots of videos and articles on the internet about it. I went to a Part 61 school. It is by far the best way to go. Next, fly a minimum of 5 days per week. In my case, I flew 5 to 6 days per week, and I tried to do as many flights per day as possible. So what does that mean? On a perfect day, if weather didn't get in the way, I did a flight in the morning, I did a simulator ride in the middle of the day, and I did another flight in the afternoon. Now, maybe what I said earlier, you got a part-time job, maybe you can't do that second flight, but you absolutely need to fly 5 to 6 days per week. The reason for that is you're going to forget a lot less between your lessons, and that means overall you're going to have to fly fewer hours to become proficient, which is going to save you money overall. The other thing that I want to make sure that you understand is while you're working on your private pilot's license, you're actually also kind of working on your instrument rating and your commercial pilot's license at the same time. And the reason for that is the commercial requires 250 hours of flying time. So every hour that you're in the cockpit, you're chipping away at that 250 hours. And for your instrument rating, one of the biggest time sucks for the instrument rating is the 50 hours of cross-country pilot and command time that you need. And so even if you haven't had your private pilot check ride yet, but you're at the point in your private pilot training when you're soloing and your instructor can endorse you, you can be going out and flying those cross-country flights and chipping away at that 50 hours that will help you to pass or to meet the requirements for your instrument exam as well. So very important, fly, fly, fly as often as possible. The next thing is to make the whole thing go fast. You need 2 really important things at your Part 61 school. Is number 1, you need to have a school that has really great weather. If you live in a place that rains a lot or has crappy weather, move somewhere else, or you're simply not going to get it done. And number 2, ideally, you are going to be attending a school that has good access to DPEs. These are the examiners hired by the FAA to give you your check rides. And one of the biggest problems at this point in time in flight training is the wait for DPEs. So when you're interviewing schools, make sure that you ask, do you have DPEs that are regularly examining the students at your school? What do the wait times look like? Because that was critical to my having success at the school that I attended. And I know a lot of you are going to ask, what school did you attend, Trent? And they don't want their name mentioned in social media, so I'm not going to tell you what it is. And the reason is very simple. They do not like training private pilots. The only thing that they really want to do is accelerated CFI training and accelerated multi-engine training. And every time I mention their school in the comments, their phone explodes and they get really pissed off because that's not the type of customer that they want. So you will have to find a school on your own. I do have a video about the whole private pilot training process that's been very, very popular. And if you want to dig deeper into all of the parts of the private pilot aspect of training, then I'll put a link to that video down in the description. All right, now let's talk about the money. So once you become a CFI, work 6 days a week. And at $25 an hour, that means you're going to earn somewhere around $4,000 to $5,000 per month, closer to $5,000. But there's going to be some days where the planes are broken or some days when the weather's not very good or what have you. We are coming into summer, or spring, I should say, and then summer at the time of this filming. So really great flying weather. But when you get to be a CFI, if that's not your end goal, if you don't want to stop there, continue to work your ass off. That's what I do. And that's why I'm able to log months where I've got north of 150 hours going into my logbook because I work my ass off. Now, I'm an independent CFI, and so that's a topic for a whole nother video because, well, it just is. And so you can make a lot more money as an independent CFI, but you need to have a way to get your students. If there's enough demand, maybe I'll make a video about that, but we're going to set that aside for now. So after a busy year as a CFI, you're going to have pretty much all the hours you need to be ready for your interviews with the regional airlines. And then when you get hired at a regional, you're looking at a salary of somewhere around $90,000. After a year at that regional, at least in the current environment, they're forcing captain upgrades about a year into it because the real problem is captains, not so much first officers. And so if you're a first-year captain at a regional, I just looked at a pay table for SkyWest, it's about $140,000 per year. Okay, so what if everything I've explained so far is just not fast enough or cheap enough for you? There is another option, and that is to go down in the light sport route. There's pros and cons to that. And luckily, I have another video where I did another interview with a pilot, with a woman by the name of Katie, or her name online is Pilot Katie. And she, in that interview, explains all the ins and outs of going the light sport route. And it can get you to a CFIS, which means you can train other light sport pilots a little quicker and a little cheaper. But again, there is pros and cons, and I would encourage you to watch that video. And then finally, what do you do once you've got your CFI? Well, number one, if your goal is to get to the airlines, which is my goal, being a CFI is the very fastest way to build time. Every month, and there's a lot of people who are like, there's all these forums about low time pilot jobs, and people say, oh, I really want to get like in the right seat of a King Air or a jet. Well, put the brakes on that for a minute and think about that. If your goal is to get to the airlines, think about your earnings at the tail end of your career. You're going to be making $20,000 to $30,000 a month. So every additional month that it takes you to start your airline career is in actuality costing you $20,000 to $30,000 at the tail end of your airline career. So what my advice to you is, forget about flying right seat in Part 135s, King Airs, jets, whatever it is. It might sound sexy, but you're not going to get very many hours. Focus on being a CFI because it is the fastest way to build time. About the only exception that I can think of, if you really, really, really don't want to be a CFI, go be a survey pilot and go quote unquote mow the lawn in the air back and forth all day, every day, and you will be logging a ton of time. And if you get really lucky, maybe some of that time or a big chunk of that time could also be multi-engine time. All right, so that's it. That's the formula to get to CFI and become a professional pilot in about 90 days for just shy of $50,000. I thank you very much for taking the time to watch the video, and I look forward to seeing your questions and comments down below. And if you're going to be a troll, knock yourself out, but I'm probably just going to delete your comment anyway. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.